That day still remains vividly in my mind, even though it happened years ago when I was just a kid. It was a really hot summer afternoon, and it felt like there had been an intense heat wave that day. It was like the heat had been a warning for what would happen to me later that day, but of course, I wouldn't end up listening to it. I had been hanging around with my best friend at the park or something, and we had gotten into an engaging conversation. But like usual, that conversation quickly turned into a debate and then into a full-blown argument. In a short amount of time, we had gotten into a heated argument over something trivial. In a fit of anger, I stormed off, running into the dense forest that bordered our neighborhood. I remember I ran fast too. I think I'd been angrier than I'd been in a while. The trees loomed overhead, their branches intertwining to form a canopy that blocked out the sun, casting eerie-looking shadows on the forest floor. As I trudged deeper into the woods, my anger began to subside, replaced by a growing sense of unease. It was this strange blend of feelings that didn't feel like my own. To me, it was kind of like how birds and rabbits can tell a dangerous predator is around, even if they never see them. The forest was unusually quiet, the only sound being the crunch of leaves under my feet and my heavy breathing as I struggled to catch my breath. I had never ventured this far before, and the unfamiliar surroundings made me feel small and vulnerable. I was a kid after all, so it wasn't difficult for me to feel that way. Suddenly, I heard a rustling noise behind me, along with a big thumping sound that immediately got my attention. I spun around in a heartbeat, my heart pounding in my chest, but saw nothing. I told myself it was just a squirrel or a bird, because when you're little and terrified, it can be the worst experience in your life. But the feeling of being watched persisted. Deep down I knew I couldn't try to lie to myself forever. I quickened my pace, hoping to find my way back home, but the forest seemed to close in around me, the trees becoming thicker and more oppressive. My heart was beating so fast, I thought I'd pass out for sure, but right when I was at peak scaredness, I saw the thing that makes nightmares come true. A powerful beast you'd think only existed in stories. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, a shadow cast by the trees that looked like it was something it wasn't. But as I squinted, I realized it was something much more sinister and very real. Standing about 50 feet away, partially obscured by the underbrush, was a creature unlike anything I could have ever seen. It was tall, easily over 7 feet, with a muscular build covered in matted, dark fur. Its head was that of a dog or wolf-like thing, but grotesquely distorted, with glowing yellow eyes that seemed to pierce through reality itself. It swayed unnaturally and twitched every now and then, but it wasn't looking at me, instead at something else in the far distance. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. When I could finally breathe, it came out in ragged breaths that echoed into the forest louder than I intended. Of all the times to make a mistake, did it have to be then? The creature's eyes locked onto mine instantly, and for a moment, neither of us moved. Then, it let out a low, guttural growl that sent shivers down my spine. Its lips curled back, revealing rows of sharp, yellowed teeth. I wanted to run, to scream, but my legs felt like they were made out of lead. Sensing my fear, it then proceeded to let out a roar that sounded unreal to me, like something that couldn't be made by any creature in the animal kingdom. The monster that I would later classify as being a Dogman took a large step forward, its massive paws crunching the leaves beneath it. I could see its muscles rippling under its fur, and the sheer power it exuded was terrifying. It opened its mouth wider, and an even greater deafening roar erupted from its throat, echoing through the forest. The sound was filled with tense rage, and seeing how it could tear me to pieces and eat me before I could blink, it was probably hunger sounding in its voice as well. That was more than enough to break my paralysis. I turned and ran, my legs pumping furiously as I tore through the underbrush. Branches whipped at my face, and I stumbled over roots and rocks, but I didn't dare look back, not for a single second. The roar still echoed in my ears, and I could hear the creature crashing through the forest behind me, its heavy footsteps growing closer. I don't know how long I ran, but eventually I burst out of the forest and into the open field near my house. I collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. When I finally dared to look back, it was gone, the forest silent once more. I never told anyone about what I saw because I was buried in deep denial about my encounter. Who would believe me when I didn't even believe myself? I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it had all been just some dream I just felt like was real. But something inside me wouldn't be satisfied if I just called it that. So here I am, telling my tale. Hope you enjoyed that story, and I'll see you in the next one. See you on the flip side.